What you been up to for the past over decade, man? Probably 15 years or so. So go for it, bruv. The platform's all yours, man. Tell us, man, what's been happening?
You know, a lot of times people will write to me or reconnect with me and say, "You still doing music?" And I'm always like, I don't understand the question. Because to me, it's I think of it as a calling, not a hobby.
Yeah.
That I can just pick up and put down when I want to. Because kind of the way, and this isn't to say that I kind of think too highly of myself or anything. What I think highly of is the fact that God's given me something that I know that I'm meant to use. If you don't use a gift, then it dwindles and it you lose it. And I remember getting a prophecy back when I was 9 or 10 years old saying that I was going to make the people of God see his beauty through poetry. And, I'm only 10 years old. I wasn't thinking along those lines at all. And then by the time I turned 12, it was actually the year I got baptized. But it wasn't linked consciously, but that same year I started writing songs, and I started, I'd been getting into hip hop like the year before that. I was listening to, the guys that were kind of, big in the Christian rap scene back then. It was, Gospel Gangsters and Cross Movement and 5-2 and Tone Rats and all those guys. And so I started writing my first rap, songs, and my parents got me this software called Djay that was this like super simple like loop building, beat maker.
Okay,
so
cool.
I started making beats and stuff, and that's where it started. And a couple years later, I got my first copy of Pro Tools and an interface, and started like recording at home. And then, so I carried on working on the craft all the way through. But like, I've always felt as if it's something that God's given me that I need to steward and use. And if I leave it for too long without using it, I know I'm being disobedient.
Okay, yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah. So it's not just kind of like, obviously I love hip hop. I love music. It's a big part of my life. I work in that industry as well, but for me, it's more than just a hobby or an interest. It is something that I feel like God's given me that I need to do. You know what I mean? And so I was with that group, Mad Prophets, and we ended up, people kind of moved away, and we ended up disbanding, and I started doing solo stuff, and did a solo album at 18 years old. That I made all the beats, I wrote everything, I recorded everything, and so I was building all these kind of production skills, which have been useful in years after that. And then I went to South Africa. I recorded an album there with a friend, and all this stuff is on Spotify except for the group album, because I kind of want to make sure that stays locked away.
Bro, if I looked, I still got it somewhere, bro.
Yeah, you probably do. You could probably use that against me somehow. But hey, I look back at this stuff and it's like, man, I was 13, 14 writing these songs, and
it's crazy.
I have to remember not to despise the day of small beginnings, right? But thankfully things change and we mature. And, it's actually part of the theme of this album is, it's really part of the inspiration for it was I was turning 30 this year. And, I had the goal. Everyone's got their kind of things to do before they turn 30, right? and I'm a pretty like reflective person, and part of the inspiration for this album was really just looking back on my life and looking on where God's taken me from, and the process of maturing, and kind of making a statement to honor that, kind of making some monument to mark that journey. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And my daughter was also born 3 months ago. And so it just felt like, this is a big shift of season in life. And I've done lots of smaller projects. I did an EP a couple years ago, and but I hadn't done a full-length album in 10 years, which is crazy. But I've been doing music that whole time. I just never kind of finished a whole album. I went to university, did a audio engineering degree, went to Oxford to study apologetics. Did a master's. So I've been, and lived in Spain and London and Oxford and all sorts of places. So, the music never died, but it was kind of, I didn't have as much time to dedicate to it. Cool. during all that time. You know what I mean? So